Like to call this meeting the Clay County Commission to order. We will begin with our invocation. Administrator, when you are prepared, please proceed.
Yes, please join us in an attitude of prayer. God in heaven, help those making decisions to carefully consider the relevant information that has been gathered. May those sharing information provide pertinent points so we all clearly understand. Enable all to think and strategize in ways that will achieve great results. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte?
Here.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
That brings us to approval of the agenda. Is there a motion related to approval of this afternoon's agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as printed.
Very good. I do have one amendment that I would like to make. It's come to my attention that the collector would like a little more time to work on 2022-205. So I would like to make the motion to amend our agenda to remove that from the agenda, and then we will just put it back on when the collector has completed the additional work she wanted to do. Discussion?
I support the amendment.
Very well. Please close. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Nolte? Oh, sorry. Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
That brings us back to the underlying. Now it is the approval of the agenda as amended. Any further discussion or alterations?
No, thank you.
Very well. Commissioner Thompson, you are recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Thank you. That brings us to meeting schedule. Administrator?
The next meeting of the commission will be a business session held next Wednesday, June 29th at 6 p.m. here in the chambers.
Okay. We have nothing listed in honorary resolutions, discussion items, public hearings, nor under consent agenda. So we will go right now to our regular agenda. The first item on our agenda is a grouping of three items, 2022-208, 209, and 210. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-208, 209, and 210 are companion resolutions for the consideration of rezoning, preliminary plat, and final plat for Deer Run Acres. Planning and Zoning Manager Kip Jones is here to present to the Commission.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. This is the proposed subdivision of Deer Run Acres. Currently, it's approximately 89 acres. It is unplatted, and it is zoned R1, which is residential rural. You can see it on the screen. It's separated. It's into two parcels at this point, but in effect, it's by deed, it's all one piece of land. The proposal is to subdivide the property into three platted lots and one unplatted lot. The three platted lots would be along the frontage, and they would be anywhere from 12 to 15 acres. So there's three lots that are 12 to 15 acres. Those would be zoned R1, which is residential rural. That is our current standard for lots that are between 10 and less than 20 acres. And the larger lot that is in behind that has roughly 120 feet of road frontage meets one of the exemptions to the 2011 Land Development Code, so it is not required to be platted. Anytime you have a parcel of land that's 100 plus feet of road frontage with access, which means you can get a driveway permit, and it's 40 plus acres, then it meets one of the exemptions to the platting requirements. The three smaller lots that are being platted would include an agricultural land preservation, which is a way for the county to limit the building locations and not allow the property owners to litter the properties with buildings, and it's designed to preserve wooded areas, streams, ponds, things like that. There are some easements, gas pipeline easements that cross the property as well, and those are noted on the plat. The 2008 comprehensive plan indicates that this is in the natural resources tier, also within the highway corridor overlay district. This property is not within a mile of any adjacent city. The intent of this tier is to support continued agricultural uses beyond near and long-term urban services extensions. And the exemption to the 20-acre minimum is as long as you do 5+ acres for each lot and you include the agricultural land preservation, which the applicant is including. This shows you the surrounding area. The picture on the left shows the aerial image. The subject property is outlined in yellow, and then the picture on the right kind of gives you a better indication of the lot sizes in that area. So the two parcels with the red dots on it are the subject property, and there's a lot of 5 to 10 to 15 acre lots in this area, as well as some larger acreages. We talk about these 5 same rezoning criteria with each rezoning case. Staff believes, and the Planning and Zoning Commission felt that those 5 criteria had been met. With any of our cases, this rezoning case was published in the Courier Tribune. We sent a total of 28 certified letters with this case, posted a rezoning sign on site, and this follows our normal process, which is Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation to the County Commission. The County Commission votes to approve or deny, and then if it's approved, we work on the recording copies of the plat, along with making sure all the conditions are met. This applicant received all their outside agency approvals, which includes the Highway Department, the Water District, the Fire District, and the Health Center. In essence, what we're trying to do is create buildable lots, so we incorporate all these outside agencies in the approval status to make sure that we're creating buildable lots for one single-family home per lot. Planning and Zoning staff recommended approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission with 2 conditions. Spoke to the applicant today. The applicant does agree with the 2 conditions. We did not receive any opposition leading up to or during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 to approve. The one item I do want to point out is you can see that pond toward the front of the lot. There is a blue line stream that runs from that pond to the east in that wooded area. The current county code requires a 75-foot setback from the center line of that stream. It does give the planning and zoning manager discretion to minimize that setback. I'm going to visit with the applicant on this case. The applicant is concerned that it's going to limit the building locations on the northern lot if we use the full 150-foot setback. It's my understanding, and from what I can see on the aerial image, it's not really a stream, it's more of a ditch. So my initial thought is we can reduce that setback, but wanted to make the commission aware that I'm going to visit with the applicant, and most likely we're going to limit that setback. There still will be a stream side setback, but rather than 75 feet, we may consider a 25-foot or 50-foot setback from that stream, because we still do want to protect that wooded area, but we don't want to limit the location a house can be built on the property. With that being said, the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote to approve, and I would be happy to answer any questions the commission has, and the applicant is present as well.
Thank you. One question that I have is you were talking about the setback, and do you anticipate being able to inspect that, whether it's a ditch, whether it's a stream, whatever it ends up being? Will you have the opportunity to inspect that prior to next week's meeting?
Yes, I would expect to get that done within the next few days.
One of the things that crosses my mind is because that's going to affect the potential of the setback. This has very little controversy, if any, but on the other hand, if we have to make a change on the plat, I'm wondering whether the preference would be to go to regular agenda for just that reason. Now, we may hear something today that makes us want to put it on regular agenda, but I guess my question would be, if we put it on consent, would that limit the ability to make that alteration if there is a different setback that's on there?
So currently we have a condition that states that the stream setback must be added to the final plat. So my opinion is that planning and zoning staff can communicate with the surveyor, whether it doesn't specifically say it has to be a 150-foot setback. We could communicate with the surveyor that planning and zoning manager has indicated that a 50-foot setback or 25-foot setback is sufficient, and we would verify that they did that correctly before that plat could be recorded. So I don't think it inhibits it at all if it's put on consent agenda.
Okay, good. Any other questions from the commission?
Thank you. No questions for me.
No questions, thank you.
If the applicant would like to make any comments, they certainly are welcome to do so. It's not necessary, but certainly we want to extend that option.
Hi, my name is Shane Priest. My address is 13580 Mount Olivet Road, Smithville, Missouri.
Oh, would you push the button? Your mic is not on. There you go.
Sorry, okay.
There you go.
Okay, again, my name is Shane Priest. I'm the applicant for Deer Run Acres. And I just want to say that we've worked with the Planning and Zoning Department to meet all the requirements. We had the full approval from the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I just want to thank you for your consideration of this project.
Any questions of the applicant?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this issue? Seeing none. Since it sounds like the issue of the setback is not really going to be a problem, and we can always put it back off the consent agenda onto regular if we so need to do, I'm thinking consent for this?
I agree. Yep.
I agree.
Very well. Items 2022-08, 09, and 210 will appear on the consent agenda for our next meeting. By the way, we have a number of these, and I don't know if anybody comes up on a regular basis, but just for those who might be new visitors, the decision we're making right now on these items is to put them on consent or regular agenda. A consent item is going to be bundled with all the other consent items and then voted on as a group. Certainly, anybody is welcome to attend these meetings, but it's probably not going to be brought up again, but just approved in that way. If it's on regular agenda, then we will open the floor once again for questions or comments. So just to let you kind of know what's going on. So then at our next meeting, the items will be either approved or denied. Very well. That brings us to the next grouping, 2022-211 and 2022-212. Once again, another 222 kind of a meeting.
Resolution 2022-211 and 212 are companion resolutions regarding the rezoning and final plat of the Lot 2 of Morton Acres, and our Planning and Zoning Manager, Kip Jones, will provide information to the Commission.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is a rezoning and final plat of Morton Acres. This does not include a preliminary plat because the property has been platted in the past. It was originally platted as a 29-acre lot. You can see that lot outlined in yellow on the screen. It was recorded in 2013. It's currently zoned agricultural, and there are no structures other than the pond on the subject property. The proposal is divided into two lots. The goal with this, for this property, is the ability to get two houses on the family farm. Mother, father are going to own the larger 24-acre piece or 25-acre piece, which is to the south, and then you can see the black line on the north is what separates the two lots. So this is a smaller, roughly 4 to 5 acre lot on the north that the children are going to build a house on. So the goal is to separate this into two. The lot that's less than 5 acres is not typical for unincorporated Clay County. This is in an area that actually requires a 10-plus acre lot. It's in the urban services tier. It is within a mile of the city of Excelsior Springs, and that is relevant because the comp plan and the land development code indicate that we should reach out to each adjacent city that is within a mile of a subject parcel, and that city has the right to grant exemptions to our lot size requirements. So staff and the applicant worked hand in hand with the city of Excelsior Springs to come up with this lot, and this is the size lot that the city wanted to see. So they okayed the lot smaller than 5 acres. This shows the surrounding area a little bit. You can see the city limits are to the south, here and here, and that gives you, the one on the right gives you a better size or a better view of the lot sizes in that area. There are some 3 to 5 acre lots directly across the street from the 4 acre lot that we're putting in, so it does match the surrounding area, staff believes. This has the same 5 rezoning criteria. So both staff and the Planning and Zoning Commission felt those were met, and this follows the same process, published in the newspaper, sent a total of 21 letters, and went in front of Planning and Zoning Commission and then County Commission. Again, we're trying to create buildable lots, in this case 2 lots. We reached out to all the outside agencies who approved this subdivision of land as well, including Highway, Health, Water, Fire District, and the City of Excelsior Springs, granting that smaller lot exemption. Staff recommended approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission with 2 conditions, that the applicant agreed with those conditions, and we did not receive any opposition leading up to or during the Planning and Zoning Commission. And the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend approval with the 2 conditions that staff recommended. I'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have. And I believe the applicant is present as well.
Are there any questions for staff?
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
If the applicant is here, they're certainly welcome to make any comments that they would like, but once again, not required. Yes, please. Would you go ahead and do it from, because that way we can record everything, and just state your name for the record so we have it. Oh, and push the button so that the green, there we go, thank you.
Yes, Ron Morton, 219 Merrill Road, Excelsior Springs, Missouri. The only addition, and I couldn't quite hear, but we did get the pond inspected, and we have that report, and I believe that he was going to forward that to Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant?
No questions, but thank you.
No questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to comment on this issue? Okay. Seeing none, there's no objection. 2022-211 and 212 would be on consent.
Works for me.
Very good. All right, we have our first sort of single issue. That is 2022-213. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-213 is the consideration of the approval of the 3rd plat of the Prairie Field Subdivision. Planning and Zoning Manager Kip Jones will provide information for the commission.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this is the 3rd plat for Prairie Field. This is located at 112th and Plattsburgh Road. Currently, this section of the land is not platted. It is rezoned to RSDM, which is a residential zoning district. The rezoning and the planned unit development final plan were approved by the County Commission in 2019, and the 1st and 2nd plats of this subdivision were approved and are nearing completion. So this is a large subdivision right outside Liberty city limits. The way this subdivision has worked is the overall plan was approved initially to make sure this project made sense for the county in this area, and then the developer brings phases or certain plats in front of the commission to be approved, which would allow them to put in that infrastructure, record the plat, and sell the lots. So this is a look at the plat. This 3rd plat includes 46 lots. It includes 4 tracks, which are open space, including the community pool. There'll be 2 temporary sediment basins, which are designed to catch the sediment before it goes into the basin that was part of the 1st plat. There are a couple changes from the overall PUD plan with this plat, one of them being that this street, which is called Clover Street, was initially designed to go through and not be a cul-de-sac, and the original 3rd plat had 44 lots, so there's 2 extra lots. The overall number of lots for this total subdivision is still going to be the same because some additional stormwater retention detention basins are going to be added to future plats, which are going to limit the number of lots in those future plats. So we're not increasing any lots here. It's just this one phase has more lots than originally planned. So here you can see the surrounding area. It's the 3rd plats outlined in yellow, and the first 2 plats are right here. And I don't know the exact percentage, but a good percentage of these building permits are issued and these houses are constructed. This is the Private Garden subdivision to the west, I-35, and then Liberty city limits and 69 highway to the southeast. This one follows a little bit of different of a process that I kind of talked about a little bit. This is, if approved by the County Commission, at that point the developer would install the infrastructure, which includes streets, water, sewer system. This subdivision is on a private sewer system that only serves this subdivision. All the agencies inspect and approve the infrastructure, including Water District, Fire District, Highway Department, MDNR for the sewer system. And then once it's approved, the developer can record the final plat and at that point sell the lots. There is a 2-year maintenance period for the developer to maintain that infrastructure, and a letter of credit is required in case at the end of that 2-year period, if there are items that need to be fixed, the county can draw on that letter of credit to fix those items if the developer does not fix them. At that point, the county would accept the infrastructure into the county system. Staff recommended approval with 14 conditions to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The applicant did agree with the conditions. We did not receive any opposition during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting this time around. Now, initially, with the rezoning and PUD plan, there was quite a bit of opposition. Staff continues to have discussion with adjacent property owners about stormwater, the private sewer system, and sediment control. That's, as with any big subdivision, that's ongoing talks. We try to do our best with sediment control, erosion control. The private sewer system is up and running. As I stated, it does just serve this one subdivision. That sewer system is permitted by MDNR. I pulled up that permit yesterday. It is in good standing. I spoke with the Missouri Public Services Commission, who is the authority that controls the sewer authority that is in charge of the sewer system, and they are in good standing with that authority as well. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 to approve. They did add one condition. They added a condition requiring the sediment basins and erosion control be in place before the rest of the infrastructure is put in place. The applicant did agree to that extra condition, and as I stated, they voted 5-0 to approve. The applicant is present, and I am happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have.
Are there any questions from the commissioners?
No questions, thank you.
Yeah, just one. Mr. Jones, you mentioned there had been at an earlier stage in this process fairly significant opposition. Can you characterize what that opposition was and if it's your understanding that that's been alleviated through this process?
Yeah, so as with any case of this size, there was discussion of traffic, stormwater, erosion control, maintenance of county roads. Big one was stormwater, because if you look at, if I can get there, the private gardens has a pretty good sized pond right here. So there was concern with silting and erosion control, but those were, I think, the main discussion. I didn't mention that all the construction plans are reviewed by the county on-call engineer, so the sanitary sewer, the erosion control, everything involved was approved by the county on-call engineer. So I think it's all been approved and every requirement has been met.
Thank you.
On the, I don't know if I'd referred to necessarily, I guess, as the previous phase for Prairie Field. How do the size of the lots compare with what was put in 2019, or was approved, I should say, in 2019?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the end of that.
Sure. I want to get a comparison between the size of the lots, and perhaps that's something for the applicant to answer, the size of the lots compared to the ones that were approved in 2019.
Yeah, so I can pull up the plat. They're similar. Bob probably knows the lot sizes better than I do, so I'll let him answer that.
Yeah, I was thinking that was probably going to be the case, but I just thought if you happen to know on that. And our responsibility would start in 2 years to maintain the roads and to also do things like snow removal and that sort of thing?
Yes, after the infrastructure is approved, that's when the 2-year maintenance period for the developer starts. Mm-hmm. And then after they're accepted, after that 2-year period, that's when the county would be responsible. And I'm identifying on a couple of these lots in the first phase, they're anywhere from 0.3 to 0.4 acres. And I'll let Mr. Sanders speak to the lot sizes of the current phase.
The other question I had was, and again, perhaps Mr. Sanders would be better answering this. When I was out there, it seemed to run from the one yellow line there in the middle of the lot, to the road on the left. That seemed to be, Plattsburgh Road. That seemed to be downhill, if I remember correctly. The lots that are in the proposed area, would they watershed that same direction, or would the water run in a different way?
Yeah, so they drain that same direction. As part of the first phase, there is a large stormwater detention basin right here. I'm going to turn on the aerial and turn off the zoning so you can see that better. But everything flows this way and then ends up in this basin. And that's why the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to, and let me take off the zoning so you can see this better. But that's why the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to make sure that those two sediment basins were put in before the rest of that infrastructure was put in, so that silt could be caught here and here before it made it across here and then across Plattsburgh Road. And I'll turn the zoning off so you can see that a little bit better.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the applicant could probably speak a little bit more specifically to that, but I did want to see if you had any information on that before we went forward. Any further questions or comments? Okay. If the applicant would like to
There we go. Should I say that again? Robert Sanders, 22420 Northeast 112th Street in Liberty. To address Commissioner Carpenter's question about the people that were concerned about the development originally, it was a 163-acre farm to start with, and most of the questions or the concerns were they really didn't want to have houses across the street from them. I mean, that's what it basically boiled down to. One lady didn't want us using the county road for access to build the treatment facility. We built our own gravel road to build that facility so we didn't hurt her road. The lot sizes are basically the same, Commissioner Nolte. I think the layout just worked out better. We got more walkout lots by doing away with that through street. We had some lots that would have graded up, which would have been difficult to build on and sell. It's been a good project, and we've tried to be good neighbors. Any issues that have come up, we've tried to address. And I think it's been a good project for Clay County. I understand, and I believe this is correct, that the building permit money is supposedly being set aside for improvement to Plattsburgh Road. Is that correct, Kip?
Do you want me to answer?
Please.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. You direct questions to us, but yes, if Mr. Jones could address that point.
Yes, all the building permit fee money for this subdivision is being set aside into a road impact fee account, which is to be used to upgrade the county road system in this area. At the time, we figured there'd be anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million in there by the time it was completely built out.
At this point, we started out with the first and second plat. We had 91 lots. I think we've got 13 left, and it's been good, and there's still demand, and we want to put the pool in for the community and get the thing kind of wrapped up.
There were also some concerns at the time, and I assume they haven't materialized, so we would have heard that the demand for water was going to affect the water pressure. I assume that that's not happened, that
No,
materialized.
we've not. I've not heard anything else about the water pressure. And to go back to your all's question, this drainage way goes right into our detention basin. This one and the next phase both will go into the detention basin. So siltation shouldn't be the problem that it was when we first started the project. We've got pretty good grass cover, and we should catch anything other than maybe some dirty water that's going into Private Gardens Lake. So
Will the egress and ingress, will it be there's a road just north of where the existing development is? Is that, yeah, right there that goes out onto Plattsburgh? Is that the main way in and out apart from the one road on the southern end that goes over to, over there? So those are the two main ways in and out?
Two ways in and out of the project. And then the treatment facility will be accessed when we get our roads all in, rather than the gravel service road. It'll be accessed for maintenance off Hills Road. I believe it's Hills Road.
Yeah, that one up there. That was what I understood where that was going to be placed.
Yeah.
The reason I ask about the way out, especially on Plattsburgh Road, is I've driven the road as it comes around there, and it seemed like it was a little bit tricky. It just seemed as though there was it seemed a little bit dangerous, because I believe there's also a bridge that goes over a creek over there, just a little bit north of where you would come out of the development. And it seemed like it was a little bit hazardous. Might have been just me being unfamiliar with the area at the time I drove
I
it.
think with the turn lanes that have been installed, it's adequate, and sight vision distances are adequate. Right now, we're seeing increased traffic where 92 highway and A highway are both closed, so people are cutting through. But
Has there been any concerns raised? Because one of the other issues was the school nearby, and there was some concern about the traffic that generates, and it would cause a problem. How has that, have you seen any impact on that?
you know, I'm around there about every day, and I really can't see a lot of impact from the school at that intersection. I think most people go back A highway toward Liberty.
That was the impression I had, was they wouldn't necessarily go that direction, maybe a few who lived over that way, but by and large, it was going to go from the other side to the, well, I guess that is the
Now,
west.
I've got a question for Commission. I understand they're doing a roundabout there at A Highway and 112th. And somebody told me, and I saw some surveyors down there the other day, they're talking about doing the same thing at 112th and Plattsburgh. Is that correct, or do you all know?
Is it something that we've had any, Administrator, do you have any?
I don't have any information on that unless Mr. Jones does.
I can see Carl shaking his head no,
He said
so
no.
I will say no.
I saw that
I need
too.
to get eyes in the back of my head, thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
Not for me. The commissioners have a question.
No questions?
Thank
Very
you all.
good, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to comment on this issue before we go forward? Very well. Seeing none, I'll ask the commission if they have a preference for either a regular or consent agenda.
Commissioner, I'm comfortable with consent.
Consent was fine.
Okay. 2022-213 will appear on consent agenda at our next meeting. Thank you, by the way. That brings us to 2022-214.
Resolution 2022-214 is consideration of the subdivision approval for Louisiana Point. Planning and Zoning Manager Kip Jones will provide information.
Please proceed.
Kip Jones, Planning and Zoning Manager. So this one probably looks a little bit familiar. It's the old Liberty Hills Country Club that the County Commission approved the rezoning and preliminary plat earlier this year. It's outlined in yellow. The current subdivision inside this little area is not part of it. This was developed in the 70s, so it's everything around the outside. These are 18 lots, anywhere from 5 acres to 20 plus acres. It is rezoned to R5, and as I stated, those were approved in January of this year. Here's the proposed plat. Nothing has changed on the final plat. Staff believes it matches the preliminary plat. There's 18 total lots, 4 ponds on the property. There'll be some stormwater infrastructure. The construction plans were approved by the county on-call engineer. Here's the surrounding area. It's at H Highway and Stockdale Road. There are existing subdivisions around it to the north, and this one we talked about, and then one to the east. This is Meadow Lake Estates. These are Liberty Hills subdivisions. But there is a lot of large acreage in this area as well, because it is so far east of Liberty. This follows the same process as the previous case, Prairie Field. If the final plat is approved by the County Commission, the developer can install the infrastructure. All the outside agencies approve that infrastructure. At that point, the developer can record the final plat and sell the lots. This would have the two-year maintenance period for the infrastructure, the same letter of credit, and then at that point, the county accepts the infrastructure into the system. Staff recommended approval to the Planning and Zoning Commission with 14 conditions. The applicant agreed with those conditions. A couple of those conditions I just want to go over is we have a third-party inspector on site to make sure the infrastructure is installed correctly. That is paid by the developer. The HOA will be responsible for the stormwater infrastructure. And then there's some limits to access off H Highway and Stockdale Road. We did receive opposition during the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Basically, it was stormwater concerns. I'll go back to one of my maps here. Basically, a property owner on this side of H Highway, I think it's right in this area, was concerned about the 2 5-acre lots across the street and how it would affect the stormwater. The stormwater's been approved by the county engineer, and in effect, we're talking one house on 5 acres. In this area of the subdivision, there are no streets, there is no other infrastructure other than that one house and whatever utilities go for each house on the lots. The new infrastructure is on this side, and I'll go back, you can see this is the new street, the 2 new streets. So we're talking about these 2 lots over here and how it would affect the property across the street, and most of the infrastructure is in this area. So the Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 with those 14 conditions that staff recommended. I would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners may have, and the applicant is present as well.
Are there any questions?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
If the applicant would like to take the opportunity to say something, certainly are welcome to say so, or to do so.
Robert Delafuente with Star Development. Just wanted to make us available for questions if you have any.
Are there any questions?
Thank you for being here, but no questions. Thank you.
No questions.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on 2022-214? Okay, seeing none. Consent once again?
I support consent.
Yes, please.
Okay. 2022-214 will appear on consent next week. That brings us to 2 more companion items, 2022-207 and 2022 Ordinance 14. Should we take those together? Is that okay? One's an ordinance and one's not. Just want to make sure we were where we needed to be. Please proceed.
Resolution 2022-207 also has a companion ordinance, 2022-14. The resolution is consideration of memorandum of understanding with 5 different agencies regarding the last 30% portion of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program 2.0. And the companion ordinance is simply a budget amendment to allow the use of those funds. And County Auditor Victor Herbert is here to provide information to the Commission.
Please proceed.
Yes, Victor Herbert, Clay County Auditor. So both items, we have Resolution 2022-207 and 2022 Ordinance 14. With the first, the resolution, those are MOUs, Memoranda of Understanding with those 5 agencies, and it is for that last 30% round we received from the federal government for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, $864,000. So we're keeping the same procedure as we've used before. The maximum amount of administrative allocation is 15% of that, $864,000. It's being split 3 ways, both the assistance dollars and then the administrative dollars with 3 agencies that we're working with to distribute these funds and that we have been working with. 2% of the award is for the technology provider that has the online application, First Call Technologies Community Care Link. And the only thing I'll add is that another change, the only real change to the MOUs that you're used to seeing is the term. Drew it out to go as far out as the end of 2023, only to be able to allow flexibility to close out the program. By the American Rescue Plan Act for ERAP 2.0, you can go out as late as September 30th, 2025. The agencies, I think, will be well done by then, and we're already essentially out of assistance dollars as we are. So So it'll go pretty quickly based on current trend and the need. One last thing I will mention is something that's different is we do have a new MOU, as I referenced in a previous discussion, with an agency called Legal Aid of Western Missouri, or LAWMO, and essentially what they're being contracted to do by recommendation from our partners with United Way, as they've worked with City of Kansas City, State of Missouri, is to provide legal assistance for eviction proceedings, and specifically those who are behind or in arrears on their rent due to COVID, and so connect them with this program. It's an eligible use as housing stability with the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, so you'll find that MOU in your packet as well. Before I step off, the 2022 Ordinance 14 is essentially the reappropriation, increasing the revenue and then increasing the expenditures as well. We do have guests from our new agency here today with WAMO. We have the Executive Director Alicia Johnson, and we also have the attorney who is actually in person at the court, Mr. Matthew McAndrews. So I'd welcome them if it pleases the chair for any questions, comments.
Very well.
I'll take any comments you have or questions for me.
One of the things that I would like to make sure that we mention, and that is if there are any Clay Countyans who think they may qualify, the application is, there's a link on our claycountymo.gov webpage for them to be able to access that, which was just, there we are. Want to make sure that anybody who feels like they might be able to apply for that they certainly investigate that and see if they do qualify. Something that I always say when this comes up that I don't really ever grow tired of saying, and that is that this is not solely for the benefit of the tenants, but many of the landlords find themselves in a very tight spot when an individual's not able to pay their rent, and many of them are small businesses, in fact, so this benefits some of the small businesses we have here in Clay County that otherwise would be in a very tight spot indeed. Having been a landlord in the past, it's you still have to make your mortgage payments, and this is a way to keep these small businesses as well as these tenants in a place where they can go forward and make themselves whole. So a very good program. Do you have any recent numbers on how many people we've been able to extend this aid to?
Certainly, yeah, and you're correct, Commissioner. So claycountymo.gov/ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program will get you there, or transparency/ERP. And the phone number, if you're not technologically savvy, you can just call 211 with United Way, and they'll direct you to an in-person case management agency, because that's certainly vital for a lot of folks. Yeah, so recent numbers, I would say combined, we're sitting at essentially distributed $4.8 million between 1.0 and 2.0, and serviced a combined 976 unique households in Clay County. And again, so this is available to all residents of Clay County. And yeah, it started, more background, started from the Consolidated Appropriations Act end of 2020. And then the American Rescue Plan Act continued it. So yeah, we've been pleased with the results. So. Yeah.
And I think you made a reference to, but could you go ahead and give us the deadline for applicants to start the application process?
So really the second phase, or the ERAP 2.0, it has limitations. So it only serves arrears for rental assistance for tenants in Clay County, your rental arrears and utilities associated with your rent. You are capped at how much months of assistance you can receive, and there is a tie of, during the pandemic or due to the pandemic that we will want to document, but essentially you're looking at, with ERAP 2.0, a total of 18 months. But again, if we're serving those who are at most need, by Treasury guidance, we are required to direct assistance to those who are under 80% area median income. And you can see on our transparency portal at the bottom of this page, we have those figures that I just referenced, and it indicates how, most of our households that we've served are less than 30% of area median income. And for second applicants, they go to the bottom of the queue. We serve those who are most in need, and especially those who are facing imminent evictions, or those we are really trying to focus on the most. But you're right, the payments do not go directly to tenants. They go to landlords or utility providers, except in a very unique situation with the uncooperative landlord. So, yeah, that's some more information.
Very good. Any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions.
No questions, thank you.
Yes, if the two individuals would like to come up and speak to the commission, we certainly appreciate it, and thank you for your time to be here today. Please proceed.
Thank you. Alicia Johnson, Executive Director of Legal Aid of Western Missouri, and we cover 40 counties. Our central office is 4001 Blue Parkway, Kansas City, but Clay County is one of the 40 counties that we cover. And I have with me today Mr. McAndrews, who is the attorney specifically who represents clients in Clay County. So I just wanted to share with you all that for the last year, United Way has covered the costs for Mr. McAndrews. We work really closely with the rent relief agencies, particularly Metro Lutheran. The United Way funding ended the end of May, and so what this MOU would do is allow Mr. McAndrews to continue to represent those clients for the next year. We've been able to help 55 Clay County families stay in place, and I would agree with the commissioner. We also share that same goal of understanding that for this whole housing market to work, landlords also need to be able to pay their mortgage. So we very much understand that our role is to take meritorious cases. Our role is to make sure with the rent relief available that we are doing our good faith effort in terms of making sure that the dollars go to where they need to go, and then also properly representing tenants. So we thank you for this opportunity, and just want to make ourselves available for any questions that you may have.
Question or comments from the commission?
Thank you. First, thanks for being here, and thanks for the work that y'all are doing. I've long been a proponent of getting better representation for folks facing eviction. And I think everybody sort of intuitively knows that, folks going through the court system in whatever capacity, that there are advantages and disadvantages based upon folks' finances and their ability to pay for quality representation. And given the stakes involved and losing one's home, this is certainly an area where I think this is important work that you guys are doing. So I guess my question is just, how's it going? What's the experience been like? And you mentioned only taking meritorious cases. I think in a perfect world we'd get all people facing eviction representation, but I know you have to pick and choose. So I am wondering too, in terms of what that process looks like in terms of who is eligible for.
Sure, absolutely. And so I would say it has been going pretty well over the past 2 years, but that's primarily because of the community partners involved. Being able to get United Way to the table, the other rent relief agencies to the table, working through the logistics of it. Our attorneys are working incredibly hard for this particular project related to Clay County. They've represented 155 tenants. So they are in court really regularly. I think we're always in a situation where more assistance would probably be better, but we're also very realistic. And I do think that, again, community partners like Metro Lutheran, being able to move that assistance quickly to the landlord, making sure that there is a fair result, I think in general, those partnerships have made a big difference in our communities. Does that answer?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you. And then so Kansas City, I know, is taking steps to guarantee representation for people facing eviction. So are you? Do you all still work with Kansas City residents, or how does that overlap?
Absolutely. So yes, Kansas City passed right to counsel. That started June 1st. And 3 nonprofit law firms provide assistance, us included. with those tenants. So there's a centralized intake system that the tenants call, and those cases are distributed. We actually just had a meeting right before this meeting, so I could see if our folks were drowning. They are not drowning yet, so that is a really good sign. But we are actively working to staff those cases as well. That's been a very interesting challenge, even making sure that the information is being provided, quickly to the tenants that they need, and making sure we're getting the assistance that they need pretty quickly as well. So it's an interesting journey. Yeah, it's been kind of a fascinating couple of weeks to work through that.
Yeah, I guess you all just got started June 1st with that, so obviously that's
Yes.
pretty new. And
Yes.
so the funding that we're approving here, would it go to serve Kansas City residents, or is the city's new scheme going to cover all of its residents?
So there will not be duplication. So we will make sure that the funding goes to it will fund Clay County cases, and it will fund specifically Mr. McAndrews, but there will not be a duplication. So if we have other attorneys that are funded under right to counsel, those folks stay in that role, and then Mr. McAndrews stays in his role. But my understanding is with the MOU is if the client is a Clay County resident, he may take the case. So I think we're kind of working through that a little bit logistically behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But the MOU specifically funds his time. Yeah.
Good deal. Thank you so much, and again,
Thank you.
thanks for the work.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions?
Commissioner Thompson?
I have no questions, but thank you so much for being here today
Thank
and all the
you.
good work you're doing for our citizens here in Clay County and our tenants as well.
Thank
So,
you very much. Thank you all.
As long as we're on the subject, I do want to extend the thanks of the commission to staff, to our auditor, and everyone else involved in county government who's made these programs run so well. So thank you very much to everyone involved here in county government. With that, these do involve expenditure of money, so regular agenda for next week?
Yeah, I support that.
That's fine.
Very well. So 2022-207 and 2022 Ordinance 14 will be on next week's regular agenda. That brings us to 2022 Ordinance 15. Administrator?
Yes, 2022 Ordinance 15 is consideration of allocating funds. The county has received our second tranche of ARPA funding, and County Auditor Victor Herbert is here to explain this ordinance and the allocation of the funds.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Yes, Victor Hurlbert, Clay County Auditor. So, as Administrator said, 2022 Ordinance 14 is essentially having the county make the election per the final rule guidance to elect up to the $10 million standard allowance of the revenue loss category, rather than the county going through a complex calculation to determine if there is any actual revenue loss. The guidance from U.S. Treasury and the American Rescue Plan Act basically allows all recipients of state and local recovery funds to take up to $10 million that can be used for general government operations. There aren't really many restrictions on that, so however, you'll see this before you amount is not $10 million, it's $9,091,826. The reason for that is we went through that calculation for revenue loss through the end of 2020 in the amount of $908,174. We did not have any calculated revenue loss through the end of 2021, but per the guidance, we are going to, with your approval, make this election up to $10 million. So I'm happy to answer any questions about this.
Questions or comments from the commission?
No questions, thank you.
No, just thanks for presenting again, and it makes sense to do this. Thanks.
All right. Because this is just arranging the money, this does not, it does not, as far as I can tell, involve actual expenditures. I think consent would be in order if
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
all right, very good. 2022 Ordinance 15 would be on consent. Excuse me. 2022-205 was taken off our agenda. That brings us to 2022-215. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-215 is the consideration of an agreement for a capital project with Greenfield Contractors for the placement of a door on our new salt shed for the Highway Department. And Deputy County Administrator Walters is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Commission. Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator for Clay County, bringing to you 2022-15 for kind of an oversight for a door for the salt shed that I think it would be nice to have so we can kind of protect our material. So the monies that we put into that account was $450,000. We were under bid on the salt shed, and so the bid for the door is $15,920 that we think would be essential for the salt shed to protect our materials. Interest in the money that we had to pay for our salt.
If I remember correctly, the old door had pretty much seen its useful life.
Yes, it had.
And then some.
Quite a life.
Are there any questions on 2022-215 from the commission?
No questions, but thank you to
Thank
Ms.
you.
Walters.
No questions, thank you.
Very well. Is there anyone else wishing to comment on this issue? Seeing none, 2022-215 would appear on regular agenda next week, if that's what the commission would like.
I support that.
That brings us to 2022-217. Administrator?
Yes, Resolution 2022-217 is the consideration of transfer of funds within a fund. We are requesting $300,000 be transferred from the contingency line item, also known as the rainy day fund, within the Highway, Road, and Bridge Fund, primarily due to the price of fuel. And Deputy County Administrator Walters is here to share some information about that.
Please proceed.
Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator for Clay County. 2022-217, in our budget, we had budgeted for the first of the year $180,000 to make it through the year, but with the escalating prices of fuel, knowing that January came along, we was at probably $2.38 a gallon. We researched it, and right around $2.40 or $2.60 for diesel, and now we're looking at the pumps. You can see that it says $2.58 or $4.58, and then your diesel's at $5.39. And so we've kind of went through that, and remember that we're not the only ones using that out there at that pump. We also have the sheriff's facilities, IT, a little bit of portion of the airport. So it's all a share down in this area, plus our part of it. And we haven't even started with our projects for the county. Yet we've used some because of, our storms that we've had here and our flooding that we've had. Takes a little extra cost on that part of it that we're using. So if we're going to continue to finish out the year, and that's a guesstimate, $300,000, and we had visited with the auditor to take it out of the rainy day and put it into the 220 fund to finish out, hopefully finishing out the year.
Yeah, we hope that'll finish out the year. We don't know where prices are going to be and another 6 months from now.
Yeah, we don't.
Or 6
We
weeks
truly
from
don't.
now. So, okay, does anybody have any questions on this issue?
A couple questions.
Sure.
Thank you. If we don't expend the dollars, at what point would they go back into the rainy day fund? Just at the end of the calendar year?
Probably at the end of the calendar year, because the auditor will foresee it, and I'm sure that since the administrator oversees the budget, and that'll take it, back if we don't spend it all.
Got it.
I'm sure it'll go back into rainy day.
And the decision to utilize the rainy day fund, were alternatives considered in terms of other locations to pull from?
Well, because of the projects that we haven't even started on yet, and those are accountable because of the price that we're going to have to pay for the oil and the rock and things that are escalating as of right now, is to pull it out of rainy day so we can hopefully get through our projects for the year with the prices that are going up on that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
No questions, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, this is strictly for fuel. This isn't for any of the other needs, of
No,
course,
sir.
which we'll probably be
Fuel.
looking at price hikes in.
Diesel and gas.
Okay. Since this is just transferring money within a fund, consent should work. Everybody's good with that?
You know, I think I'd prefer regular if that's okay with it.
That
with-
is no problem.
With you all. Thanks.
Very good. Very good. 2022-217 will appear on regular agenda for our next meeting. That brings us to 2022-223. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-223 is the consideration of a contract with Decker Construction for the bridge number 196004, which is located on Northeast 112th Street. And Deputy County Administrator Walters is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Carl Walters, Deputy County Administrator for Clay County. Back in 2021, May, we had a shutdown on this bridge for the deterioration and the deck falling apart, some of the piers and stuff that was deteriorated. It was recommended by MoDOT to shut the bridge down. We have research to go through Decker Construction, which is an on-call contractor, to research and see what the cost would be. He came back with a price of $481,362, which we had budgeted into the bond money, $700,000 for that bridge, not knowing what that was actually going to be cost, because the head walls would probably have to be replaced. We knew that the alignment of the creek was going to have to be done because that was part of the erosion problem and some of the other stuff, and then new guardrail put in for safety reasons because of the depth of the creek. But being said that, the price of that came in, and if he can get that quote or get that project going, then the price of the beams is at a substantial number right now, but if we wait too long, then we're probably looking at an increase on that as well. So,
Very good. Any questions or comments? Commissioner Thompson?
No questions, but thanks.
No questions. Thank you.
thank you.
All right. Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? Seeing none. 2022-223.
Yeah, thank you.
2022-223 will be on next week's regular agenda. That brings us to 2022-219. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-219 is the consideration of the allocation of funds to do construction work back in the office area and the commission hearing room in preparation for the addition of 4 commissioners. Deputy County Administrator Kuntz is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Hi, Donna Kuntz, Deputy County Administrator Facilities. Yes, the request before you, hopefully it doesn't seem early, but because this involves construction, the lead time for any types of material is extensively long right now, and I feel like it's imperative that we make plans to start so that we can actually be ready by January. I was advised the other day by one of our contractors that a door frame is on a 12-week lead time. So what we need to do is we are taking existing office space in the back and removing walls and subdividing that area to accommodate the new commissioners coming in. That also requires, they would like a desk, I'm sure, to work out, so it requires a little bit of furniture to go back there. This room, we need a new dais to accommodate 7 commissioners. It will also require upgrades to our sound and our electronic systems to be able to live stream and to accommodate everybody coming in. We're also hoping to maybe step it up a notch to be able to have live computer screens in front of you, so you're not always having to look up here at this screen, so you can have documents right in front of you. And so if you want to refer back to another page, that you'd be able to do that yourself. And with that, I'm happy to give any further details that you'd like to know.
No, I appreciate that, and the idea that we do have a longer time period to wait for materials and all that does, you're probably not starting too early at all. You're probably right dead on. So appreciate the fact that you're able to put this together and organize this rather quickly. Also looking forward to maybe a little bit more technology for us here at the dais and in this room. I don't know the last time we remodeled in here, but it's probably been some time. So certainly I think those improvements will make it a better experience for citizens who come here to see how their government is operating. So thank you very much for the hard work. Further comments from the commission?
I mostly just want to say thanks to you, and I know it's been a lot of work has already gone into this, so thank you. The $500,000 amount, I mean, do we have an actual sense yet of what the expected cost will be, or are we just...
Ben's, it's construction, and there's some flex in numbers, and we're still finalizing some of the technology, which is really kind of the unknown piece. I mean, we have firm costs for building the walls and everything. So honestly, I would say we're probably looking at around $450,000. But we left some room in there for unexpected, or we are in a historic building, and so when you go just to run electrical outlets and put in new data ports, in the big scheme of things, that should be fairly simple, but in a building that is this age, in a historical building, that usually gets us surprises. So actually locking down exactly what it'll cost for the electrical, that's like they give you an estimate. We expect it to be this unless we encounter this problem.
Got it, thank you.
Commissioner Thompson?
No questions, but thank you for working on this. I know this is quite a big project and undertaking, and we have a very short amount of time to work on it. So, thanks.
And we thank you in advance for your patience, because there will be some pain during this process of getting things turned around and rebuilt. So I thank you now.
Very good. With that, 2022-219 on regular?
Yep, makes sense.
Very good. That brings us to 2022-206. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-206 is consideration of a special event permit with the Liberty Chamber of Commerce for the Liberty Fall Festival, and Deputy County Administrator Kuntz is here and can provide information about that event.
Donna Kuntz, Deputy County Administrator. Yes, I feel like I've done this several times before, because they have been coming since 1977. So the math is 45 years we've been doing the Liberty Fall Festival up here around the square. So once again, really no changes. Asking to be able to use our 201 Mill Street area for the carnival people that come in so they can park their trailers. We will utilize the Rooney Justice parking lot to host the carnival. Across the street in a portion of the yard area over by your Children's Justice Center area, we will also have some additional craft booths and vendors over there. This does include utilizing some water over at our Children's Justice Center, and they put all of their craft and various other booths up here completely around the square. It involves all of our merchants that we have here. So it is, once again, my request, can we host Fall Festival?
Are there any questions or comments?
No questions, thanks.
No questions, thank you.
Very good. Consent?
I support consent.
2022-206 will appear on the consent agenda at our next meeting. That brings us to 2022-220. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-220 is the consideration of a special event license for Cowboy Up events to be held at Smithville Lake, and Park Director Driscoll is here to provide information about this event.
Please proceed.
Good afternoon, Mike Driscoll, Parks Department. We have been happy to host the triathlon to honor Matt Mason out at Smithville Lake for the past 10 years. It's an event that's held out at Crows Creek Park for the most part, with some consideration to road closures that will be coordinated with the Sheriff's Department, and also a little bit of road closure that we generally have to pretty much announce to the campers that we may have a short delay, for them moving in and out of the campground due to road closures. This event also features a parachute jump, which will be all approved, and everything lined up as soon as we gain commission approval. In consideration for the event, they will pay the regular fees for all of our shelter use and stuff, and a $1,500 participant and volunteer payment that covers all of their volunteers, set up people, and all that. And due to time considerations, I would like to allow Chad Mance to come up and speak on behalf of the event. He's a longtime organizer for the event. It's a very well-run event, and any other questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Before we go to, do you have any questions? Anybody have any questions for the Parks Director?
No questions.
No questions.
Very good. Yes, please come forward.
Yes, thank you. Chad Mans with the Cowboy Up Triathlon. This is our 11th year we've done this now at Smithville Lake. So Matt Mason grew up in Kearney, actually Holt, and went to Kearney High School. I was a good friend of his. He was a Navy SEAL and actually developmental group team, which was part of the Team 6 that actually got bin Laden as well. And he passed away in Afghanistan in 2011. And his friends and I got together and formed a board and a committee. We figured the best way to honor him was through a triathlon because he got all of us doing races years ago. So we do this triathlon. We do not take a dime of money, any part of this whatsoever. Everything pretty much is donated, and then we give every dollar that we raise from a proceed all to first responder and military causes around the Kansas City area and throughout as well too. So we've been doing this a long time and really enjoy it. And we have a few participants that have actually been there 10 years in a row. I've never missed one. One lady in Smithville Lake actually does it every single year, and it's a very neat event for the community, and we appreciate your consideration on the approval.
Well, thank you for what you've been doing, and so often when you have events that are in honor of someone, sometimes their history gets lost in the shuffle. So thank you for giving us a brief outline of why we are honoring Matt Mason and with this event, and more accurately, why you are honoring his memory. So thank you for that history lesson. Questions or comments from the commission?
I have no questions, but thank you for coming in today, and we are very excited to be able to do this again for the 11th year.
Thank you.
Smithville Lakes. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
No questions, but it sounds like a wonderful event. Great way to honor your friend. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Great, thank you. With that, 2022-220 for consent?
Agreed.
Very good. That brings us to 2022-221, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-221 is the consideration of an event license for Wake the World KC to be held at Paradise Point, and Director Driscoll is here to provide information.
Please proceed.
Mike Driscoll, Park Director. This event is actually one of the longer running events we have at the park also, and this resolution would like to ask for the approval for this event. We have, since I believe 2011 was the first one held up at the lake, and they used the handicapped dock and shelter area at Crows Creek boat ramp. It sets up real nice for them. And we have generally just set aside the use of that one side boat ramp for them to use. That still leaves the other boat ramp open at that location, so we're not closing it totally off. And anyway, the licensee will have the regatta permit as necessary. They will ask for the event volunteers, organizers and whatnot to come to the park free of charge and set up for the event and run the event. And we will generally put out 15 picnic tables set up for them, some extra trash cans. That's basically all the extra setup we have to do for the event. And it's basically just a great event for all those involved. And the action for this would please sign the revocable license for this event. Thank you.
Okay, questions or comments?
No questions. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. 2022-221 on consent agenda? Very good. That brings us to, oh my gosh, 2022-222. I said it right the first time. I'm so proud of myself.
Resolution 2022-222 is consideration of an event license with Midwest Adaptive Sports for the 27th Annual Day at the Lake to be held at Crows Creek, and Director Driscoll is here to provide additional information.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mike Driscoll, Parks Department. This is one of the longest running events we have out here also for this 27th year. This event encourages young individuals 16 and older to participate, and whether they like boating or just swimming around, paddling around on the board or whatever, the object is to get them out and have them enjoy a day on the lake with the correct supervision, and that is provided by Midwest Adaptive Sports. And they will also obtain the required regatta permit for the event. The employees and organizers will ask to be allowed into the park as necessary for setup and training without charge. The event also asks for one large tent and a few small tents to be put up. And all that we need to do really is just consider the area off limits just for that time being during the event, and they pick up, clean up, and they're gone. So all we ask for is the approval and signing of this license for them to hold the event.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so I can do this. 2022-222 will appear on next week's consent agenda if everybody's agreeable.
I agree.
Very good. That brings us to 2022-224, Administrator.
Resolution 2022-224 is the consideration of an agreement with Beck Cal regarding maintenance of stormwater detention facility on the property owned by the county at Bratton Creek Crossing. And Councilor Graham can provide additional information to the Commission.
Please proceed.
Yes, Commissioners, we talked about this last week. This is the agreement that Beck-Cal has signed, agreeing that they will do the first 2 years of all maintenance regarding the detention facility out there at the North Brighton location.
Okay. Are there any questions of the council on this one?
No questions, thank you.
No questions.
I don't have a particular problem with doing consent. Do you?
There's no cost associated with this to the county.
And doesn't appear to have any controversy attached to it. So it's kind of a little bit of a gray area, but if everybody's good with that, we'll go with consent.
That's fine.
I support consent, yeah.
Very well. 2022-224 will be on consent for next week. That brings us to 2022-218. Oh my gosh, there we are, last item. Administrator?
Resolution 2022-218 is a consideration of a reappointment of Linda Fulmer to the Domestic Violence Board. The term will expire on December 31st, 2024. There is still one remaining position on this particular commission that we are looking for individuals to serve. We have no applications that we've received at this time, so we encourage anyone who is interested in serving on this commission to go to our website and fill out the application.
Since that's my nomination, I'll go ahead and take that one. Ms. Fulmer has been on the board for a good deal of time and served faithfully, and I thought that she would certainly bring a consistency to this issue. So I wanted to go ahead and nominate her. Are there any questions or comments from the commission?
No questions, thank you.
No questions, thank you.
Very well. Since it's our general practice, I would like to request the 2022-218 be on regular agenda for next week. And that brings us to the end of our regular agenda. If somebody would like to make a motion related to the items that we have just deliberated on.
Commissioner, I move that we put the following items on next Wednesday, 6 p.m.'s regular agenda: 2022-207 and 2022 Ordinance 14, 2022-215, 217, 223, 219, and 218. with each of today's remaining items less 2022-205 on next week's consent agenda.
Motion has been made to distribute the items that we took up today on regular agenda for next week's meeting between the consent and regular agenda as outlined by the commissioner. Discussion? Very well. With that, you're recognized to close.
I close.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Carpenter?
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson?
Yes.
Excuse me, that brings us on comments on non-agenda items. Are there any members of the public, office holders, or agencies who would care to comment? Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Presiding Commissioner, Associate Commissioners. My name is Jim Oldebecken. I live in Gladstone. I have come today to talk about something I have been following for several weeks and I think is worthy of bringing to your attention. It has to do with circumstances of the Mid-Continent Public Library. I'd like to start with a quote from Poor Richard's Almanac, Benjamin Franklin. "Reading makes a full man, meditation a profound man, discourse a clear man." And I believe this covers reading, freedom of information, meditation, freedom of thought, discourse, the First Amendment. And this is what a library is about. It's about many things, but it is certainly about us having access to information that we need to be informed and to benefit ourselves and then to contribute something at times to our life, in particular when we use our First Amendment expressions. And so there's much to cover. I really just want to get this, bring some things to your attention so you can do your own due diligence. But first, I'll just clarify.
By the way, but before you get started, is it possible for, and again, you can go into as much depth as you choose, but if you want to hit the high points and submit the copy, that way we can include that in the minutes. But I just throw that out there as an option if you'd like to avail yourself of it. So however you choose to go forward, but I just want to let you know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's your choice if you would like to just hit the high points and then submit but I would submit the text in any case, that way it's on the record.
I sure will.
If you would not mind.
There was a meeting last night. I would have done that. The meeting last night was the last scheduled meeting before the Missouri statutes requirement that the library have an approved budget. And last night, that did not happen. There are reasons for that. I'll just hit a couple of real quick high points, and I will follow up primarily just with the public records. I mean, what does it mean if I say something? What I'm going to say is everything I cover here is from public records. So the event last night was there was a 6-6 tie vote, which resulted in no budget being passed. The libraries will be open on the first day of the fiscal year, their fiscal year. The Kansas City Star was incorrect on that. They are not incorrect on the other issues. What happened to a budget not being passed? I have a pretty good track record on that. My key benefit was because there wasn't a lot of time after this article in the Star and editorial, claims about white genocide pushed Kansas City library leader to resign. Steve Potter resigned. That was his last meeting. And that was the first part. And through reviewing public records, even some of the communications between the trustees, there was a lot of focus by new trustees on the library's activities in the area of DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion. And then also there was another string of communications regarding the books that they have in the library system related to race. Then there was an event after these events related to issues of race and how the library conducts its. Well, the chairman of the Board of Trustees evicted or deposed, no, I don't know. he removed the chairman of the finance committee, whatever, I don't know what the technical word is, and replaced an individual with a CPA who chaired the finance committee. There's a lot there. The most important things to note is that he made accusations that the library was not forthcoming with information and some other ones, but basically he did not call any committee meetings until the last business day before the budget was to be approved. No agenda for that meeting, no vote taken on a budget. He had an alternative budget, and this gentleman, his name is Gordon Cook, he was appointed by Plat County. You got to see this. It's in the YouTube live stream. He tried to get a budget passed that he brought in cold to that meeting. Had not been approved or even debated by the finance committee. And the previous chair was the treasurer, so there's something there that is concerning. But I want to bring up something that I think you also, I'd ask that you consider. The rule of law. We have to follow the laws equally. The rule of law, as I understand it, is the laws apply equally to everyone. There are statutes related to the budget that were not followed. Additionally, there is, this is really key, the Missouri Public Library Trustee Manual. This is from the Secretary of State. It's still a valid document. They cover the duties. They cover budgets. And there's something very important here related to this issue of intellectual freedom, censorship. I mean, it's here. And it really appears that a faction on their trustees have been really outside their lane. It also concerns me that there are established policies. I mean, this governmental body has policies. I mean, you follow the law, but then practically you kind of fan out, these are the policies we have to accomplish the purpose of our government and also to comply with the law. There are so many things in here that this body for the library is not complying with. And I encourage you to, well, I guess what I want to say here is I hope when you appoint, I mean, this body appoints, is it 4? I think 4 trustees for the Mid-Continent Library, their board of trustees. I would ask that you make sure you are aware of this. This is their policies and then also this document from the Secretary of State because it really covers these aspects. I would hope that when you consider those that submit their names and you're evaluating who to nominate, that decision is yours. No, appoint. That you validate that they have read these documents, and that they are, please get a reaction to them. Is this something you can live with? I feel like there's no doubt they're walking in trying to change things without even really fully understanding some of their duties. So, I'll just say that I get concerned when our institutions of government and democracy are really substantially changing, and they're under attack. And this comes at the same time that, you're familiar with the Missouri Ethics Commission composition? 3 Republicans and 1 Democrat. It's supposed to be a bipartisan group. It's not. And I ask you to keep an eye on these things. Everyone needs to follow the law, especially government officials. And now we have this with the library. Oh my gosh. So I will conclude. But I want to say finally that there are some things that are definitely sacred. I think the election, oversight of our elections is sacred. If the law says, the statute says, and the second word in the statute that sets up the Missouri Ethics Commission is bipartisan, I expect that as a citizen. And then I don't like to see politics, partisan, factions, trying to disrupt something as sacred as the library system. And here's just one more quote. Pray don't burn down my house to roast your eggs. That's kind of what I feel is happening here. Libraries are sacred. I think we really need to keep an eye on this and help them move through this. Thank you for listening, and I will follow up with some communication. I'd like to be a resource. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the time you made for comments. Anyone else wishing to make any comments on non-agenda items? Seeing none. County Administrator, do you have comments you'd like to make at this time?
I have no comments, thank you.
I'm sorry, you said no? Very good. Commissioner comments? Commissioner Thompson, do you have anything?
I don't, thank you, no comments today.
Commissioner Carpenter?
I do not, thank you.
The only comment I have at this point is just to say I hope everybody had a pleasant Father's Day. It's always good to take the time to remember people that are meaningful in our lives, and I hope everyone had the opportunity, one way or another, to acknowledge the fathers that are in our lives. With that, that brings us to approval of the minutes of previous sessions. I don't see any here. Written reports?
No reports.
There are no written reports. There are no executive sessions. That brings us to adjournment. We are adjourned.